In a shocking turn of events that has shaken the very foundation of the Women's National Basketball Association, WNBA, the Las Vegas Aces, once a juggernaut of dominance in women's basketball, find themselves embroiled in turmoil. This is not the collapse of a team. This is the implosion of a dynasty in the making. A series of sudden departures, fractured locker room dynamics, and behind-the-scenes drama have left the Aces in a state of disarray. And just when it seemed like the team had everything it needed to secure another championship, the situation spirals out of control, with players jumping ship and a fanbase scrambling for answers. At the heart of this storm is a name that has already become synonymous with greatness: Caitlyn Clark. Is the exit of key players the beginning of the end for the Aces? Or is there more to the story? And most importantly, why is Caitlyn Clark being unfairly dragged into this mess? This suspenseful tale begins with a shocking unraveling of one of the league's most feared teams, but it's also about defending a star who has become the target of unsubstantiated rumors. Chapter 1. The Las Vegas Aces, a rising empire. When the Las Vegas Aces were established as a WNBA franchise in 2018, few could have predicted the incredible success they would achieve in such a short time. A powerhouse from the start, the Aces quickly built a reputation for dominance. Anchored by superstars like Aya Wilson, Chelsea Gray, and Kelsey Plum, the team made an immediate impact, culminating in a historic 2022 championship victory. Under the leadership of head coach Becky Hammon, the Aces seemed poised to rule the WNBA for years to come. Their game was sharp, their offense relentless, and their defense impenetrable. With Hammon at the helm, a coaching pedigree that had long been awaited in the women's game, the Aces were a franchise that felt untouchable. They had a rare mix of veteran leadership and young, hungry players eager to prove themselves. The future was bright, and all signs pointed to the Aces securing back-to-back championships and cementing themselves as a dynasty in the making. But as quickly as the Aces rose to the top, the cracks began to appear. The very qualities that made them so formidable were beginning to breed tension. What looked like a well-oiled machine was slowly starting to show signs of rust. Chapter 2. The first signs of trouble. As early as the offseason, whispers began to circulate about issues within the team. Players who had been at the forefront of the Aces' success, individuals who seemed inseparable on and off the court, started to show signs of disconnect. Aya Wilson, the team's undisputed leader, was reportedly at odds with several veteran players who were no longer content with their roles. There was talk of a rift between the veterans and younger players, particularly in how minutes were being distributed and who was being prioritized in the team's strategy. Despite these issues remaining under the radar, a slow burn of frustration began to spread through the locker room. The team had been successful, yes, but it wasn't without its underlying tensions. And now, as the off-season drew to a close and training camps began, it became clear that these cracks weren't just cosmetic. They were structural. Chapter 3. The mass exodus begins. It wasn't long before the situation reached a boiling point. Within a span of a few weeks, a wave of departures hit the Aces. Key players, pillars of the team's success, started making headlines not for their performances, but for their shocking exits. Kelsey Plum, a fan favorite and one of the Aces' most talented guards, announced her departure from the team, citing the need for a fresh start. Rumors swirled about her growing dissatisfaction with the team's internal politics, and sources close to the player indicated that the once tight bond between the Aces' stars had frayed beyond repair. Then came the bombshell. Aya Wilson, the face of the franchise, expressed doubts about staying with the Aces. While her departure wasn't confirmed yet, the seeds of uncertainty were planted. The basketball world watched in disbelief as other players, once considered untouchable, followed suit. Role players with critical contributions to the Aces' defensive schemes and championship run, including several longtime members of the squad, announced their trades or free agent decisions. For the Las Vegas Aces, it felt like everything they had worked for was collapsing. What happened to the tight-knit team chemistry? What happened to the vision that Becky Hammon had meticulously built? With the departures came a flood of uncertainty. What was going to happen to the Aces' title aspirations? Would the remaining players step up, or was the dynasty doomed? Chapter 4. Caitlyn Clark, the unwarranted scapegoat. Just when things couldn't get worse for the Aces, another storm began brewing. Caitlyn Clark's name was being thrown around, and not in the way that a rising star's name should be. Clark, fresh off an illustrious college career at the University of Iowa, was generating interest from multiple WNBA teams, including the Las Vegas Aces. Her potential addition to the squad was seen by many as the perfect way to fill the void left by some of the departing players. But as rumors of Clark's potential signing began to gain traction, a troubling narrative started to emerge. Unnamed sources claimed that Clark's arrival might be the catalyst for the team's implosion. Some alleged that veteran players, particularly those disgruntled by their reduced roles, saw Clark's arrival as a direct challenge to their status. This theory took hold in the media, unsubstantiated, unfair, and misguided. The narrative that Caitlyn Clark was somehow the reason for the Aces' internal collapse quickly gained momentum. What had been a carefully orchestrated rebuilding effort was now being distorted into a blame game, and Caitlyn Clark was unfairly painted as the villain. But this couldn't be further from the truth. Chapter 5. The Real Issues. A Team in Crisis. It wasn't Caitlyn Clark who caused the Aces' implosion. It was the internal conflicts and unresolved tensions that had been brewing for months. Locker room drama, ego clashes, management missteps, and the overwhelming pressure to win. It was these factors that led to the unraveling of a once dominant team. Clark, in fact, was a potential solution, not the problem. She's a player who thrives under pressure, a dynamic talent who could have injected new life into the Aces roster. Her skill set, her scoring ability, basketball IQ, and leadership could have been the missing link in a team that was in desperate need of a fresh direction. The suggestion that Clark would be the source of division was a narrative pushed by those looking to shift blame. It was easier to point fingers at a newcomer than to confront the larger issues within the team. The truth is, the Aces' struggle wasn't about Clark's potential. It was about deeper, systemic issues, player egos, poor communication, and the inability to adapt to a changing landscape. Chapter 6. The Fallout. Aces in Limbo. As the departures mounted and speculation around Caitlyn Clark continued to grow, the Aces were left with a fractured roster, a demoralized fanbase, and a management team scrambling to keep the ship afloat. The fallout was immediate. Not only had the Aces lost key players, but the team's image was tarnished, and trust within the organization had eroded. A team that had once been a symbol of unity and strength was now facing an identity crisis. Could they rebuild? Could they return to their championship-winning form? The clock was ticking. But amidst the chaos, there remained a glimmer of hope. The Aces still had some of the brightest stars in the league, players who, with the right leadership, could rise from the ashes. The future was uncertain, but not all was lost. Chapter 7. Defending Caitlyn Clark. The light in the darkness. Caitlyn Clark deserves better than the blame she's being unfairly handed. If anything, her arrival on the Aces could be the catalyst for a new era of dominance. Instead of being seen as a disruption, Clark should be celebrated for her potential to elevate the team. Her talent is undeniable, and her leadership qualities would only strengthen the Aces locker room, not divide it. Caitlyn Clark should not be the scapegoat for a team that failed to address its internal issues. The responsibility lies with the management and the leadership that allowed the situation to spiral out of control. To blame Clark for the Aces' implosion is not only unjust, it's a disservice to the sport. Conclusion. The road ahead for the Aces. As the dust settles on the wreckage of the Las Vegas Aces, one thing is clear. The team's future depends on its ability to rebuild, both in terms of roster and culture. The exit of several key players may have temporarily derailed their championship dreams, but with the right leadership and the addition of young stars like Caitlyn Clark, the Aces could rise again. For now, the Aces' journey is one of self-reflection, recovery, and growth. The team must confront the real issues that led to their downfall and rebuild from within. As for Caitlyn Clark, she is not the enemy. She is the future. And if the Aces are smart, they will embrace her, not blame him.